Imagine making a sauce so good, women were compelled to propose to you. That's the apparent story behind my favorite all-time fish dish in New York City and the latest inductee into Stevie's Food Hall of Fame. This is Iron Chef Marc Forgione's Hallbut and croute in sauce proposal. Now, restaurant Marc Forgione is probably the restaurant in New York City I've been to the most times. And they have some of my favorite dishes. But we've actually spoken recently, and eventually we're going to shoot at his place, and he's gonna show me all 3 of these recipes. But this is my recreation today. And eventually we'll see how close I get. So I've got hazelnuts here, just a couple handfuls. What I'm gonna do is pop this into my toaster oven, toast them on 350, just until they start to get fragrant, nice and toasty and brown. Now before we get into the sauce proposal, here we have a nice fillet of halibut. I asked my fishmonger to take off the skin. When I got home after shopping this morning, I just took it out the bag, seasoned it on both sides of the fish, threw it in the refrigerator uncovered to dry it out and allow that fish to get seasoned and absorb that salt. Now, halibut and croute, what does that mean? It's halibut encrusted, right? So the incredible thing that they do is they take a piece of white bread. You can get it nice and fresh baked, or you can get one of these pieces. Now what we're gonna do is take this piece of bread, flatten it out with a rolling pin into a flat thing like that. You know, bread like this with the grilled cheese, make like an amazing smashed grilled cheese. Anyway, this now should be bigger than the piece of filet. Set that off to the side, we need an egg. Now I just need the whites. So I'm just gonna rock it back and forth until we just get the egg white. We just wanna whip it. Just till it's a little foamy and easy to spread. See, now our hazelnuts are toasted. Just gonna rock them. You're gonna get a lot of that easy to get off skin. Any pieces, others you could just go and just peel that skin off. God damn, let them cool. Then we're just set those off to the side and allow them to chill. And we're just gonna brush that egg white on top of the halibut fillet. Just the top half. Then we're gonna take the halibut fillet, we're gonna flip it so the bread makes contact with the egg, right in the middle of the flattened bread. And then what we can do, take a knife and trim off the crust. And then split it into 2. Flip them over. And so the halibut and croute is prepped. Now we're gonna place this in the fridge and allow that egg to act as like a glue and seal to that fish. Then we can prep everything else. Hazelnuts are cooled. Just gonna get a Ziploc bag, get the hazelnuts in. You don't need to seal it. We're just gonna take a pan and just sort of crack them. These are gonna add some nice texture. Hazelnuts are prepped, we can set them off to the side. Now, one of the elements to go with this dish is a cauliflower puree. It's a dead simple recipe, it's easy to make, and it's like a beautiful switch up from something like a mashed potato. And it's really just cauliflower, heavy cream, and some salt. To a pot, just gonna add a pint of cream to start, and we'll see if we need a little bit more. So now we're gonna use this cauliflower a couple ways. The first one is in this cauliflower puree. The next way is we're going to be adding some cauliflower roasted onto the dish. So we're gonna prep the cauliflower a couple of different ways. First, I'm just gonna go in and start to release some florets. The outer ones are the bigger florets. So those are gonna be the ones I'm gonna use for the puree. You wanna cut them in half? You could do that. You could leave them whole. Just keep them equal sized. Add them to the cream. Just a little more cream to cover. Some salt. We're gonna place this on the stove, bring it up to a boil, and then drop it down to a simmer. Do not put a lid on it, and do not cook it too hard, otherwise it's gonna boil over and cause a mess on your stove. Let's see if I manage to do that this time as well. Now the other way, I wanna access the smallest florets, the ones that are towards the center or the heart of the cauliflower. I want these little bites. That's sort of how they serve it in the restaurant. Right, like little bits like that, nicely caramelized. You could also give a bigger one a little cut in half like that. Marc also serves this with romesco, treated in a similar fashion, but that's hard to find here, so we're just gonna use some good old broccoli. I'm just gonna sort of approach it the same way. Now for an elegant dish like this should be enough for maybe 2 people. By the way, this is kind of like an incredible date night dish. So you wanna keep it light. It's a great amount of vegetables for 2 servings. You know, when we do these Hall of Fame dishes, these recreations, sometimes it's fun to like act like a chef at home, plate it really beautifully, or even just practice plating it in a different way than you're normally used to. So that's part of the idea here. So we're gonna set that off to the side. That's prepped. Milk's starting to boil. I'm just gonna drop it down to low. We're just gonna cook them until they're super tender. Now, what is sauce proposal? One of those things where I tasted the dish with a fork and I just kept dipping the fork in What is that? It's just the most incredible thing I had tasted at the time. And what it essentially is a butter emulsion, so a butter sauce. So we're going to use a lot of butter. It's a restaurant dish, shouldn't be surprising. You're not gonna make this all the time, although you could. And the emulsion is going to be flavored by soy sauce and lime juice. Salty, umami, acidic, bright, buttery, fat, all of these things combined with the roasted broccoli, the cauliflower puree, the crunch of the en croute fish, out of control. And with the butter, we need 2 things. 8 ounces, which is 2 sticks of butter that we're going to keep cold and emulsify into the butter. And then 1 stick we're gonna turn into brown butter and add that after we add this. So we're gonna keep this in the fridge, and then we're gonna turn this into brown butter. Then we need a 1/2 cup of soy sauce, then a 1/2 cup of lime juice. Should be about 3 limes if they're juicy enough. Looks like it's gonna be 4 limes for me today. But I've got extras. At the end, I may use one to just brighten up the sauce before serving. But that's it, butter, lime, soy sauce. First step is to brown the butter. Now we're gonna make our brown butter. And of course, as I do this, what do you know? We boil over the cauliflower. I told you that's gonna happen. Had the heat on a little too high. Anyway, to a saute pan, we're going to add in a stick of butter. And we wanna make brown butter, so we're gonna keep it on medium-low heat and slowly melt the butter and cook it until the butter starts to turn a little bit of golden. There's a foam that sort of settles on the top and the milk fats and the solids separate, and the milk fats at the bottom of the pan begin to brown. A nutty aroma starts to perfume off of the butter, and that's when you're done. So now we've got our brown butter. We're gonna get that into a bowl, put all those milk fats in there. We're gonna get that onto some ice. Then we're gonna start to whisk it. If you don't whisk it, as it cools, it's just gonna separate. With this ice, whisking it, it's gonna cool it down fast, stop the cooking, and then allow it to form back into like a workable solid that then we can mount into the sauce at the end for that added brown butter flavor. It should be like caramel nutty aroma. Absolutely delicious. Once it cools down, switch from a whisk back to a spatula. You drag it along those walls. It's gonna start to firm up any second now. Now you can see it's firmed up. The milk solids are now suspended in that butter. This can go into the fridge to further set. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fish out the cauliflower, get that into a blender. And with it comes some of that cream that we cooked it in. And we kind of need a little bit of that to create the right consistency. Now I don't want to add too much, so I'm gonna start blending it like that and see if I need more. It's really hard to adjust it when it's too thin. I think that's gonna be good. It's nice and thick, but it's really kind of light and smooth and creamy. See that? It's like an ethereal texture. So I'm gonna pour it back into the pot. You can get an idea of the consistency. It's like thick, it's flowy. Any more liquid in there and that would have been a little too thin. Almost like really light palm puree. And keep that warm on the back of the stove. Now before we get to cooking the fish, making the sauce, we've got some fresh parsley here. So I'm just gonna bunch up the parsley, just like you would chiffonade basil, just sort of roll it up and then slice it thin. You can set that off to the side. We're gonna need some capers, maybe about a tablespoon should work. So we've got our butters, our brown butter, our unsalted butter, our lime, our soy, our veggie, capers, parsley, hazelnuts, and our cauliflower puree, and our fish. The bread and the fish have now become one. First, the sauce proposal. So to make this sauce, we're first going to get that soy sauce up to a boil, and I'm just gonna let it simmer for about 2 to 3 minutes, allow just a tiny bit of evaporation and concentration to occur. Then we're gonna take the lime juice and we're gonna add that into the pot. Again, we're gonna bring that up to a simmer, get it hot, and then we're gonna turn the heat to very low. I'm gonna go ahead and start whisking in the cold unsalted butter. Now the technique to this is going to be adding 1 knob of butter, about a tablespoon. Whisk it until it's fully melted and incorporated into the sauce. And once that butter is melted, then and only then do you begin to add another one. And then we're gonna start doing the same thing, a tablespoon at a time with the brown butter. Starting slow in the beginning is gonna help you achieve a proper emulsion, the same way drizzling olive oil slowly into a dressing gets it emulsified the same way. What we're just gonna do is slide that off to the side, set that on low, and let that whole mixture just reduce slightly before we're ready to serve it. Next up, for this particular fish dish, I like to use a small non-stick pan to cook the fish. So what we're gonna do is spray a little bit of oil in there and just bring it up to a very modest temperature. I don't want the surface of the pan to be any hotter than like 300, 325 degrees. Once it's hot, we can go ahead and add in our fish, bread side down. We're gonna put a weight on top of it, and the goal here is to slowly cook the fish and to slowly brown and crisp up that bread. We want simmering happening around the edges to make sure it's hot enough to brown, but we don't want it too hot. And every now and then we're just gonna pick it up and see how we're doing. You can control the level of golden brown you're gonna get on that piece of bread, but you're also watching the fish cook from the bottom up. Once we let that cook about 80 to 90% on the bread side on that low heat, and it's nicely crisp and golden brown all over, then we can give it a flip and kiss the other side. I really wanna just get heat flowing from the bottom up. After a minute or two, I'm gonna temp it. If it's around 110, I know it's gonna carry over cook to around 135, and that's gonna be a perfect temperature for fish. Get it out of the pan and let it rest while we finish the rest of this dish. Now I'm gonna get my stainless steel saute pan, medium-high heat, and again, we're gonna coat the bottom of the pan with some oil. We want a little bit more oil for this because we're trying to achieve a really caramelized vegetable. Once it's hot, we're gonna go in with the tiny broccoli cauliflower florets we cut. Hit them with some salt and do not touch them. We really wanna allow one side to develop a really nice brown caramelized, sweet, nutty aroma and flavor. Once you see one side is nicely browned after a few minutes, give it a toss and then try and achieve that with another side of the vegetable. They are small, but when you're cooking them like this, they're not gonna get mushy too fast, so you can go a little bit heavier on the heat. That caramelization is a vital feature to this dish. After that cooks for about 5-6 minutes, then we can go ahead and add the hazelnuts and allow those to get hot, toasty a bit, bring out some of their flavor, wake them up. After the nuts toast for a couple minutes, we can go in with the capers. Get those mixed in, and then the final step is to add the sauce, but you wanna make sure the pan's not too hot before you add in the sauce. I don't really wanna cook it any more than it is and risk breaking it. But I did add the sauce when it's a bit too hot. Just stir that into the vegetables, that steam will sort of finish it through, and then we're ready to plate. Oh yeah, one last thing. Right before you serve it, throw in that sliced parsley we cut earlier. I forgot to show that on screen. Now for plating, we're going for this yin and yang look. So we're gonna take a big dollop of the cauliflower, drop it on one side of a shallow bowl, then with the back of a spoon, press into the cauliflower and turn the bowl while dragging it around the bowl to create this iconic pattern to the plating. Next up, we take our sauce proposal and our vegetables, and we just start to display them in that little crevice we've created with the cauliflower. A bed for the fish to sit on, where the sauce and the vegetables are sort of nestled and contained by the cauliflower. Pour in all of that magical sauce, the whole reason I'm obsessed with this dish. Then we just place our halibut and croute right in the middle. And yes, this is a different piece of fish. I lost some footage, but you get the idea. Now, this may not be exactly how Marc does it, but I assure you, it tastes pretty damn similar and good enough for me at home. I love the hazelnuts in it. The yin and the yang of both the plating and the sauce and the cauliflower just blend together so well. And I mean, look at this perfect fish. Crisp bread, moist fish. And man, that sauce just hits that rich, fatty, umami, acidic note, just bounces around your tongue. This is going in the Hall of Fame. And if you wanna make this, the recipe's gonna be down in the description. And soon we'll head on over to Marc to see how we actually measured up. Also, if you haven't yet, check out my link in the description for my Patreon cooking school. Totally different concept to what we got going on over here. If you're curious, the link's gonna be down below. Anyway, that's all that I have today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself. Go feed yourself.